Hello, guys. I'm sorry. Welcome to Dark Tales of the Mind. I'm your host, Lucian Graves. I apologize for the late start on this one. I know this video was supposed to be out at noon, but I got conned into getting this thing here. I mean, it's a pretty cool little puppy here. We had to go and get some things for it, but we are doing chapter 7 today. I mean, just look at that. How can you say no to that? I mean, it's the cutest little thing in the world. I'm sorry. But today we will be doing chapter 7, okay, of my book, St. Samuel. Um, this one's called The Dawn of a New Era. And without any kind of further negligence on this one, I know I've been skipping out on this. I will not be harassing you to like, comment, or subscribe any of my videos. If you like what I do, please, by all means, feel free to do so. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I can improve on. I am open ears. Open ears. I apologize. But without further ado, here's chapter 7, the dawn of a new era. The world felt different in the morning. Samuel sat in the driver's seat of his truck, staring at the horizon as the first slivers of daylight crawled over the edge of East Texas. The night before left him raw, exposed in a way he hadn't been in years. Rachel, quit chewing it. Rachel had seen too much. He had let her see too much. For a brief moment, he had broken down in the motel room. He felt something close to relief. But the morning brought clarity. The clarity brought the truth. Nothing had changed. Rachel wanted to save him, but there was nothing left to save. His phone buzzed on the console. He already knew who it was before he looked. Ruiz. Samuel let it quit. Samuel let it vibrate, watching the screen until it stopped. Then another message came in. This time, not from Ruiz. It was from a number he had never seen before. It's time. Be ready. No name, no instructions, but he knew exactly who it was. Samuel exhaled, gripping the steering wheel tight enough to make his knuckles turn white. The last 24 hours had rewritten everything. It's trying to eat my fingers. He had stepped into something bigger than Ruiz, bigger than anything he had ever known. And now there was no turning back. Another buzz, this time a voicemail from Ruiz. He hesitated, then pressed play. You listening, Cabron? Good. He's watching now, everything, from here on out. You're in the deep end. No more testing the waters. No more proving yourself. You either swim or you drown. See you soon. The message ended. Samuel closed his eyes, breathing deep. This was it. He wasn't just another mule anymore. He was not just a driver, not just a pawn. He was stepping into the role they had chosen for him, the top. And for the first time, Samuel wasn't sure if he was climbing or if he was falling faster than ever. It's literally eating my finger, man. This messed up. He put the truck in drive, leaving the motel room behind, heading toward whatever waited for him in the morning light. The tires hummed against the asphalt as Samuel drove. The early morning air was thick with weight of what lay ahead. Every mile carried him further from what little remained of his old life, yet closer to something he could no longer outrun. His phone buzzed again, another message. Warehouse, 30 minutes, no mistakes. Samuel's grip tightened on the wheel, no name, no location. but he already knew which warehouse. The one Ruiz had taken him to before, the one where men either proved their worth or didn't walk back out. He flicked the cigarette out the window, the ember dying in the wind. 30 minutes. A lifetime ago. He might have turned the truck around, found an excuse to run, but not anymore. He had crossed too many lines, done too much. The man he used to be, the man who once thought he was doing this for his son, for custody, for some kind of future, the man didn't exist anymore. He pulled He pulled up to the warehouse as the sun bled over the horizon, staining the sky in muted golds and reds. A single black SUV was already parked outside, its tinted windows reflecting nothing but shadows. Samuel exhaled and stepped out. The moment his boots hit the gravel, the warehouse door slid open. Rui stood inside, arms crossed, watching him with that unreadable expression. "You're late," Ruiz muttered. Samuel glanced at his watch. "No, I'm not." Ruiz smirked, then stepped aside. "Come on in, Hamrano. The boss is waiting." Samuel walked in, the scent of oil and metal thick in the air. The warehouse was nearly empty except for a single chair in the center of the room. A man slumped in, hands bound behind his back, head hanging low. His breathing was labored, his body was bruised and battered. Samuel stopped, cold, not because of the man in the chair, but because of the man standing behind him. The same man Samuel had driven to his execution, the man he thought was dead, Ruiz's boss, the true head of the organization. The man grinned, running a hand over his beard as he stepped forward. "Surprised to see me, Samuel?" Samuel said nothing, but his mind was racing. Ruiz chuckled beside him. "Told you, you're in the deep end now." The boss nodded toward the beaten man in the chair. "You want to prove you belong? Then finish what you started." Samuel felt his pulse hammer against his ribs. This wasn't just a test. This was a confirmation, a final step into the life he had been teetering the edge of. No turning back, no escape. Ruiz handed him a gun. The weight of it was familiar, heavy in his palm. The room was silent. The only sound was the man's labored breathing. Samuel looked at the beaten man, then at Ruiz, then at the boss. This was it, the moment of no return, the final moment of humanity. Samuel lifted the gun and pulled the trigger. The gunshot shattered the silence. The man slumped forward in the chair, blood pooling beneath him. The air smelled of burnt gunpowder, sweat, and something worse, finality. Samuel's hand remained steady, the gun still aimed where the man's head had been. He didn't blink, didn't move. Inside, though, something fractured so deeply that he swore he could hear it. The slow clap echoed through the warehouse. "Well done," the boss said, stepping forward with a grin that was all teeth and no warmth. He gestured toward the lifeless body. "No hesitation, no second guessing. You understand now, don't you?" Samuel said nothing. He just lowered the gun, exhaling slowly through his nose. Ruiz clapped him on the shoulder, his grip firm. "Told you he was ready." The boss studied Samuel for a long moment, eyes searching for something, doubt, regret, weakness. Whatever he was looking for, he didn't find it. "Take a walk with me," the boss said, nodding toward the warehouse door. "We've got things to discuss." Samuel followed. She's snoring. Samuel, Samuel followed him outside, the early morning air hitting his face like ice. He hadn't realized how suffocating the warehouse had been until now. The boss pulled a cigarette from his pocket, lighting it with slow precision before offering one to Samuel. Samuel took it, though he barely felt his fingers move. His mind was still back in the room, still hearing the echo of the gunshot. The boss took a long drag, then exhaled. "You're not just a mule anymore. You know that, right?" Samuel nodded. "You proved yourself tonight," the boss continued. "Ruiz vouched for you. but I needed to see it for myself. And now I see it. He glanced over, his eyes dark and unreadable. You've got a killer instinct, Samuel. A man like you don't just survive in this world, you rise. Samuel took a slow drag from his cigarette, then smoke burned, grounding him. Is that what this is? His voice low, rough. A test? Boss chuckled. Everything's a test. Life, death, loyalty. It's all just proof of who you really are. Samuel looked down at the cigarette between his fingers. Who he really was. The boss flicked his ash onto the ground. There's more work to be done. Bigger things than running product or driving people from one place to another. He glanced at Samuel, his smirk returning. How do you feel about leadership? Samuel exhaled slowly. He should have felt something. Pride, fear, relief, something. But all he felt was the weight of the morning pressing down on him. And he wasn't sure if he was the one rising or if he was being buried alive. Samuel let the cigarette burn between his fingers, watching the ember eat away at the paper. He had pulled the trigger. There was no undoing that. No rewinding time. No justifying it. And now Ruiz's boss, the man who had been watching him from the beginning, wanted to elevate him. Samuel glanced at the man beside him, the real power behind everything. He still didn't know his name. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe names didn't matter in this world. Leadership, Samuel echoed, his voice devoid of emotion. The boss smirked, flicking his cigarette into the dirt. That's right. You've been playing in the kiddie pool, but we both know you're ready for the deeper waters. He gestured around them. This is business, isn't it? This business isn't just about moving product. It's about control. Control over supply, over people, over the ones who think they can operate without permission. Samuel said nothing, letting the words settle. The boss studied him. You didn't strike me as the man who hesitates. You understand how things work. The strong move up, the weak disappear. You want you want to be strong, don't you? Samuel exhaled a long breath. What exactly are you offering? The, the boss grinned, pleased. A seat at the table. Not at the bottom, not with the bottom feeders Ruiz usually deals with. I'm talking about the ones who run entire regions. You've got the stomach for it, the mind for it, and more importantly, you've got the cold for it. Samuel's fingers tightened around the cigarette. He wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an observation. You're at a crossroads, Samuel, the boss continued. You can keep doing what you've been doing, running errands, getting your hands dirty for someone else, or you could take control, start giving the orders instead of following them. A promotion, that's what this is? But promotions come with debt. He thought about Rachel the night before, of her begging him to stop before it was too late, before he was too far gone. Was that this moment the one where he could still turn back? Ruiz leaned against the warehouse door, watching with a knowing smirk. He'll take it, he said confidently. Won't you, Hermano? Samuel let the silence stretch. He wasn't stupid. He knew what saying no meant. He could feel the weight of the gun still in his hands, even though it wasn't there anymore. He already answered the question. He flicked the cigarette away. What's the first move? The boss grinned. That's what I like to hear. Ruiz clapped Samuel on the back. Welcome to the real game, Hermano. Samuel stared at the rising sun, feeling the feeling none of its warmth. The dawn of a new era, the final burial of whatever was left of his soul. The sun had fully risen by the time they had left the warehouse, but the cold in Samuel's bones remained. He followed the boss and Ruiz back to the black SUV, the tension in the air thick as motor oil. The boss opened the back door, nodding for Samuel to get in. Time we had a real conversation. Samuel hesitated for a fraction of a second before climbing inside. Ruiz slid in beside him, the door shutting with a heavy finality. The boss took the front passenger seat, and the driver pulled away. He finally turned, looking at Samuel dead in the eyes. Since you're stepping into my world, I suppose introductions are overdue. His voice was calm, but there was an edge beneath it, like a blade, just beneath the silk. The name's Esteban Cortez. I run everything from Dallas to the coast. Ruiz answers to me, and if you're smart, you'll learn quick. I don't tolerate mistakes. Samuel met his gaze, unreadable. Then I guess I better not make any. Cortez smirked. Smart answer. The SUV cut through the black roads, through the back roads. The ride smooth but suffocating in its silence. Samuel could feel it, the tension that went deeper than just conversation. Something was off. Something was wrong. Cortez exhaled through his nose, tapping a ringed finger against the leather armrest. We've got a problem, Samuel. A big one. Ruiz had been uncharacteristically quiet. Finally spoke. Someone inside is talking. We don't know who yet, but things aren't adding up. Product's been intercepted. Money's missing. And I got word this morning. Feds are sniffing around where they shouldn't be. Samuel's stomach tightened. This wasn't just business as usual. This was a breach. Cortez nodded. Eyes still locked on Samuel. That's why I'm bringing you in now. I don't trust half the people I work with anymore. Ruiz vouches for you, and I needed to see it for myself. Samuel didn't react. And what exactly do you need to see? Cortez smirked, returned. But there was no amusement in it. Loyalty, ability, the instinct to clean house when it's time. He leaned in slightly, because make no mistake, we're about to clean house. The SUV rolled to a stop outside a gated property. Armed men stood at the entrance, watching as they waved through. Samuel could feel it in his gut now. This wasn't just a test anymore. This was war. Cortez stepped outside, stretching his neck. Come on inside. Let's talk about who needs to die. Samuel followed his pulse steady, but his mind was screaming. The house was more of a fortress, high walls, reinforced doors, men with rifles positioned at every corner. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Cortez wasn't just running a business, he was defending a kingdom. Inside, the air was thick with cigar smoke and tension. A massive wooden table stretched across the dimly lit room, littered with maps, burner phones, and stacks of cash. Samuel could see it now, the inner workings of the empire he was being pulled into. Cortez took his seat at the head of the table, his fingers drumming against the surface as Ruiz leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed. Other men gathered round, each one with the same hard, watchful eyes. Samuel took a slow breath. This wasn't a test anymore. This was the real thing. Cortez exhaled, then leaned forward. His gaze was sharp. We got a rat. The words hung in the air with a slow burning fuse. Ruiz was the first to speak. Someone's been leaking intel. We've lost shipments. They had heat on locations that should have been ghosts. That doesn't happen unless someone on the inside is feeding them. Samuel didn't flinch. You got a suspect? Cortez studied him for a long moment before chuckling. That's the problem, isn't it? I don't trust anyone. He gestured towards the men seated at the table. These are my most trusted people, but the leaks are coming from somewhere. That means one of two things. Someone's playing both sides, or someone's too damn careless to see that they've been compromised. A man across the table, a lean, sharp-faced guy named Javier, shifted uncomfortably. We're locking down everything, but if the feds are sniffing around, they've already got something, and if they've got something, they're not going to stop until they tear us apart. Cortez's smirk was humorless. which is why we're going to cut out the infection before it spreads. The room went silent. Samuel felt it, the pull in his gut. This wasn't just about finding the traitor, it was about sending a message. Cortez tapped the table, his voice casual. We're going to we're going to start eliminating the weak links. Anyone who can't be vouched for, anyone who's slipped up, anyone whose loyalty is even remotely in question. He glanced at Samuel, and I want you to be the one to handle it. Samuel didn't react, but Ruiz chuckled, shaking his head. Damn, boss, not even a honeymoon phase? Cortez smirked. Baptism by fire, hermano. Samuel met his gaze, unreadable. And what happens if I find out it's someone close to you? Cortez's smile faded. Then you do what needs to be done. The room was suffocating now, the weight of the unspoken accusation pressing against every man sitting there. Samuel exhaled, glancing around. He had no way of knowing if the rat was in the room or if it was all some elaborate game Cortez was playing to test his loyalty. But one thing was clear. He was being given the power to decide who lived and who died. And in doing so, he'd be sealing his own fate. Ruiz clapped a hand on his shoulder. Congratulations, hermano. You're officially in the deep end. Samuel didn't respond because for the first time since this all started, he wasn't sure if he was swimming or if he was drowning. The weight of the room pressed down on him like an iron grip around his throat. Every man at the table watching him now, their eyes calculating, waiting to see how he would react. Cortez had handed him the knife and was watching to see where he would cut first. Samuel leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. If you don't trust anyone, then why trust me? Cortez smirked, tilting his head slightly. Because I know exactly what you are. Silence. Ruiz exhaled, a short laugh, shaking his head. Damn, boss, let the man breathe before you read his soul. But Samuel didn't look away. And what am I? Cortez's gaze sharp, his fingers idly tapping the wooden surface. You're a survivor, a man who does what he has to. You shot the man. You shot that man back there without a second thought. That tells me something. You understand that hesitation gets you killed. Samuel didn't flinch. I shot him because I didn't have a choice. Cortez's grin widened. That's what they all say in the beginning. The words slithered into Samuel's mind, coiling around something deeper and unsettling inside of him. Cortez leaned back, gesturing towards the room. Loyalty in this business isn't about words. It's about who bleeds for you, who kills for you, and who dies for you. You want to prove your loyalty? Then root out the rat and handle it. Samuel could feel the unspoken warning in his tone. This was more about this was more than a test. This was the noose tightening around his neck. Fine, Samuel said, his voice level. But I need full access. Everyone's movements, transactions, burner records. If you want me to find the leak, I do it my way. A flicker of amusement passed through Cortez's eyes. He liked this. The pushback, the cold logic. Done, Cortez said. But make no mistake, whoever you find, they don't walk away breathing. Samuel nodded, feeling Ruiz's gaze burning into the side of his face. You sure you're up for this, hermano? Ruiz asked. His voice lighter, but his eyes deadly serious. Samuel exhaled slowly. No. But he had already crossed too many lines to stop now. I'll get it done, he said, pushing back his chair and standing. Just don't be surprised if the traitor is closer than you think. Cortez chuckled. That's the fun part, isn't it? Samuel turned without another word, walking towards the door. But as he reached for the handle, Cortez's voice stopped him. Oh, and Samuel. He turned slightly, glancing back. If you even think about playing both sides, Cortez smiled, I'll make sure your kid never knows your name. A cold quiet settled into Samuel's bones. He clenched his jaw, but said nothing, stepping out into the humid night air. His hands were steady, his mind was clear, but his fate was already sealed. Samuel stepped out of the room, the weight of Cortez's words pressing against his spine like a loaded gun. The night air was thick with humidity, clinging to his skin like sweat. He took a deep breath, trying to steady the unease curling in his gut, but it did little to quiet the storm brewing inside his head. The world around him had changed. The lines that were once separated right from wrong, necessity from sin, had blurred into nothingness. He was no longer just a man trying to survive. He was becoming something else. Footsteps echoed behind him. Ruiz. Samuel didn't turn. He didn't have to. He could feel Ruiz's presence like a shadow stretching too close. You good, hermano? Ruiz's voice was casual, but there was no undercurrent of curiosity, testing, engaging. Samuel exhaled through his nose. You tell me. Ruiz chuckled, falling in a step beside him. Cortez likes you. That's not something to take lightly. Yeah, Samuel muttered, because it felt like a leash. It is, Ruiz admitted easily. But it's also protection. You think anyone else in there gets an opportunity like that? He's trusting you to clean house. That means he sees you as one of us. Samuel didn't respond because that was the problem, wasn't it? He wasn't sure he had stopped being an outsider when he had crossed into that invisible threshold from desperate man to willing participant. Maybe it was the first time he took the money. Maybe it was the moment he pulled the trigger. Or maybe it was right now, walking beside Ruiz, no longer feeling he didn't belong. You think you can do it? Ruiz asked, his tone unreadable. Samuel finally looked at him. Find the rat? Ruiz nodded. Samuel studied him for a moment, then glanced back at the warehouse. If there's a leak, that means someone in there is willing to betray Cortez. That's either a man with nothing left to lose or someone with something worth losing. Ruiz smirked. That's a fancy way of saying it could be any one of them. Exactly. Ruiz stopped walking, turning to face him fully. So how do you want to play this? Samuel knew exactly what he was really asking. Did he have it in him? Could he step deeper into the world knowing there was no way back? The worst part was he already had the answer. I'll handle it, Samuel said. Ruiz studied him for a beat, then nodded. Good. Let's get to work. The next 48 hours were spent buried in burner phone logs, transaction records, and movements. Cortez had given Samuel full access, and Ruiz had made sure no one questioned it. Samuel sat in a dimly lit motel room, the glow of the laptop screen casting shadows across his face. The files in front of him were a tangled web of numbers, coded messages designed to keep outsiders from seeing the bigger picture. But he wasn't an outsider anymore. He traced shipments, timelines, the locations of intercepted deliveries. Patterns emerged. Someone had been careful but not careful enough. A name kept surfacing. Javier. He had been in every location where something had gone wrong. His burner had pinged in places it shouldn't have. And there was a money trail, small, unassuming payments wired to an untraceable account. Just enough to go unnoticed. But Samuel noticed. His stomach twisted as he leaned back in the chair. Javier had been in the room with them, sitting at the table, listening, watching. And now Samuel had a decision to make. Samuel sat across from Ruiz at the corner of the table in a back alley bar, the air thick with cigarette smoke and quiet conversations. I found him, Samuel said, sliding a folded piece of paper across the table. Ruiz opened it, eyes scanning before exhaling sharply. Javier? Samuel nodded. He's been at every drop that got intercepted. His phone has been pinging in places it shouldn't. He's got a secondary cash flow coming in from somewhere that doesn't match his usual income. Ruiz drummed his fingers against the table, considering. You sure about this? Samuel met his gaze. Yeah. Ruiz sighed, folding the paper and neatly tucking it into the pocket. Then we do this clean. Samuel's pulse picked up. Meaning, Ruiz leaned in slightly, meaning you take care of it personally. Samuel didn't move, didn't react. Ruiz smiled. You thought this was just about finding the rat? Nah, hermano. This is the moment Cortez really sees what you're made of. You want your place at the table? Then you handle it, no questions, no hesitation. Samuel swallowed, his throat dry. Ruiz watched him carefully. Can you do it? The answer was already there, buried beneath everything Samuel had already done. He wasn't the same man who had walked into this world. He sure as hell wasn't getting out of it. Yeah, Samuel said, his voice steady. I can do it. Javier's apartment was a rundown place on the outskirts of the city, the kind of building where no one asked questions and no one called the cops. Samuel waited outside in his truck, gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were burning. This was different. Pulling the trigger on a faceless man in a warehouse was one thing, but Javier, he had sat beside Samuel at a table, shared drinks, had fought alongside them. Samuel clenched his jaw. He was a traitor. That was the only thing that mattered. He stepped outside of his truck, his movements automatic, one foot in front of the other, past the flickering streetlight, up the cracked concrete. his hand, She's chasing rabbits. His hands didn't shake as he knocked on the door. Javier answered, surprise flickered across his face. Samuel, what the hell are you doing here? Samuel didn't speak, didn't hesitate. He pressed the barrel of the gun against Javier's chest and pulled the trigger. The silencer muffled the shot, but the impact was brutal. Javier staggered back, eyes wide in shock. A strangled gasp escaped his lips. Samuel caught him before he hit the ground, easing him down onto the stained carpet. Blood spread fast, pulling beneath him. Javier's mouth moved, trying to form words, but his body had already given up. Samuel knelt beside him, his own breath steady. Javier's eyes locked onto his, filled with something between pain and understanding. Samuel didn't look away, didn't let himself feel it. This was what Cortez wanted, what Ruiz expected, what this world demanded. Javier's body shuddered once, then went still. Samuel exhaled slowly, pressing his palm against his forehead. His mind was silent, his emotions buried so deeply they barely felt real anymore. He stood, stepping over the body. He had done what was necessary, and in doing so, he had he had crossed the final threshold. There was no going back. The weight of what he had done followed Samuel down the cracked concrete steps of Javier's apartment building. It sat heavy on his chest, pressing against his ribs like a fist, but it didn't let but he didn't let it slow his steps. His boots hit the pavements in a steady rhythm, each footfall sealing the reality of what he had become. The air outside was thick with the scent of rain. A storm was thick. A storm was rolling in. The wind carried the distant growl of thunder, and for a brief moment Samuel wondered if the world itself was reacting to what had just happened to it in that dimly lit apartment. He climbed into his truck, closing the door with a quiet finality. His hands found the wheel, gripping it tight, knuckles aching. His fingers twitched in unconscious movement, like his body was trying to shake off that last remnants of humanity still clinging to him. Javier had looked at him when he died, not with anger, not with fear, with acceptance. That was the part that stuck. Samuel exhaled sharply and turned the key in the ignition. The engine rumbled to life, masking the sound of his own unsteady breathing. He needed to move, needed to get away from that place before the walls closed in around him. As he pulled away from the curb, the weight in his chest didn't lessen. It never would. Ruiz was waiting for him at the roadside bar, just outside the city limits. The kind of place where drinks were cheap, the lights were low, and nobody paid attention to men in the back booths who who spoke in hushed tones. Samuel walked in, the smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke hitting him like a wave. Ruiz spotted him immediately, raising a hand in greeting. There was a beer waiting for him at the table. Samuel slid into the seat across from him. He didn't touch the drink. Ruiz studied him for a moment, then nodded. It's done? Not a question, a statement. Samuel met his gaze. Yeah. Ruiz leaned back, exhaling through his nose. How do you feel? Samuel didn't answer right away. He did. How did he feel? Like something had cracked open inside of him, spilling out everything that had once made him him. Made him him. Like he had finally stopped fighting the current and let himself get dragged under. Instead of saying any of that, he just took the beer and downed it in a long swig. Rui smirked. That's what I thought. There was no praise, no congratulations, just understanding. You did good, Ruiz said, reaching into his jacket. He pulled out a folded envelope and slid it across the table. Ruiz is pleased. Samuel picked it up. It was thick, more money than he had ever seen in one place before all of this. Ruiz tapped his fingers across the wood, and he's not just throwing cash at you, Hermano. He's opening doors. You've proven yourself. That means the real opportunities start now. He said, I didn't do it for the opportunities, he said quietly. Ruiz grinned. Doesn't matter. You're in, whether you like it or not. Samuel didn't argue because it was true. Ruiz's smile faded slightly. His expression turning more serious than there's something else. Samuel raised an eyebrow. Ruiz leaned in. Cortez wants to see you personally. Samuel's pulse ticked up. Tonight, he asked. Ruiz nodded. Yeah, he's got another job for you, something big. Samuel's jaw clenched. There was no stopping now. The drive to Cortez's estate was long and silent. The road stretched endlessly, cutting through the dark Texas landscape. The sky above thick with storm clouds, first droplets of rain hitting the windshield, blurring the view ahead. Samuel barely noticed his mind was somewhere else. Javier's dead eyes, the weight of the gun in his hands, Ruiz's words, you're in whether you like it or not. Samuel had done everything to survive, to keep himself afloat, to protect the fragile hope of getting his son back. But now he wasn't sure if he was surviving anymore, or if he was becoming something else entirely, something he wouldn't recognize when he looked into the mirror. By the time he pulled through the heavy gates of Cortez's estate, the rain had picked up, streaking down the glass like prison bars. A man waved him through. No turning back. He parked, stepped out, and walked towards the looming mansion, his heartbeat steady despite the storm raging inside of him. Cortez was waiting, and Samuel had no choice but to step further into the darkness. And that is the end of chapter 7. Say goodbye to little people. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I really hope you all appreciated it. I am not going to harass you again for likes, comments, and subscribes. But if you really did like this, please let me know in the comments or whatever. I really appreciate you and hope y'all all have a wonderful night. Love y'all.